what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome back to another episode of Video Game Adaptations with my co-host, Kat Valor.
Hi.
Can you
Looking
guess
forward
this?
to this one. Yeah, can you
Can you
guess
guess
what we're
this?
talking about today? I think this is the most excited we've ever been for an episode.
Like little kids about to get a toy. So we're talking Willy's Wonderland. So in November, Kat and I will be covering the FNAF movie, but obviously it comes out literally at the end of October, and it was going to be way too complicated probably to try to get it in for the month of October. So we're going to do it in November. And this is a great segue into that because Willy's Wonderland is well, at the time I thought was going to be the only FNAF movie that we were ever going to get. So good place to start.
Yes. Willy's Wonderland, I've gone on record as saying this. I've gotten in trouble with a lot of FNAF fans for saying this publicly, loudly online, and here I am doing it again. Willy's Wonderland is the FNAF movie I want.
Yeah,
Like, even if this is going to be the last episode of this we record where we have not seen FNAF, the
true.
movie,
Yeah.
and like even if it's great, I feel like I'm going to prefer this. And if it's terrible, like I'm happy. It's low stakes because we have Willies, no matter what happens.
Yeah, when I so I don't and I'm sure you were probably similar, like, when I heard that the rights had been obtained for there to be a FNAF movie, I was really excited.
Yeah.
But then, like, they just kinda sat on it, and I'm not really sure, what the reason is. Sorry, my cat's doing this thing where you can see things I can't see, and it's very distracting. Stop it. Okay, lay down. Um I was like super excited, and then they like didn't do anything with it. And so I was like, all right, cool, I guess. And then we got Willy's Wonderland, which at the time that I watched this, like, no, I hadn't heard very much about it, which was really surprising to me. But then I watched it and like immediately fell in love with it. I loved it so much. And I was like, well, I don't really need a FNAF movie. I was like the same way. I was like, this is everything I wanted in a FNAF movie. Like it's perfect.
It's absolutely perfect. And it's one of those things where it's like Willy's Wonderland did kind of steal Blumhouse's thunder with this. Which, like, I'm not gonna criticize Willy's Wonderland. They made the smart move. There was this unreal culture hype around Five Nights at Freddy's, and it was so big, and Blumhouse had the rights during that time, and
Yeah.
then they sat on it for so long. And,
Mhm.
a lot of people have been defensive of it, and I feel
Mhm.
it's fair to, like, point it out. Maybe the attention to detail is gonna be really worth it in the script. Maybe they're doing something really wonderful. It's a possibility, but
Yeah.
I do just like it missed the window for when FNAF was biggest, you
Yeah,
know?
like it would be. I think it's gonna probably be pretty successful.
Yeah.
Um, but I think honestly, a majority of the reason it's gonna be successful is because it's a PG-13 horror movie.
Yes.
Not just because it's FNAF, because all the people who were that age when FNAF was big are now not that age. So
Yeah.
this would have been, and I'm not somebody that knocks PG-13 horror. There's tons of PG-13 horror movies that I love, and I'm a huge advocate for giving PG-13 horror a shot. However, I don't think this was the right call, but I know why they did it. They did it because PG-13 horror brings in more money, because more,
Yeah.
the kids can go see it, and it's not, and I get all of that. That's fine. But I was when they released the information about the rating, I was like, ugh, like I really think it would have done better, at least for maybe some of us, as a rated R movie. So that's got me a little bit concerned.
That has me concerned too because it's like you said, the people that were driving the Five Nights at Freddy's community have aged up. Like, I was on the older side of that, I feel
Yeah,
like,
me
because
too.
I was like 18, 19,
Yeah,
20. I
I was in
think,
my
when this
20s.
game
Yeah.
was at its height.
Yep.
So I was already kind of at an R rating place in my life when I
Yeah.
experienced the game for the first time. But
Yeah.
like, I had cousins and stuff that were playing it, and they're all getting to be, like, old enough that PG-13 isn't cutting it for them the way that it did when,
Yeah.
so the rating has me a little bit worried, especially because, to draw this to like a different Blumhouse release, Megan earlier this year, Mathregan, uh, had the, like, PG-13 theatrical release,
And
which
then
they really watered down from the original cut to get people to go see it, and financially, it made sense because Megan did really, really well, but,
yeah,
you know, I think it's the diehard fans that are going to be more interested in this necessarily than
yeah.
casual players of the game that are of that age now. So,
Yeah, and I think so. So my partner's kids are 10 and 11, and we're actually going to take them to go see it when it comes out opening weekend. But age range for playing Five Nights at Freddy's is still not the same as
yes.
those of us that were like really getting into it when it first came out, because now, Five Nights at Freddy's, there's several games, there's several spin-offs, there's a lot to do in the franchise if you're new to it. But they're like, the stuff that they're doing, while still very Five Nights at Freddy's, it's very much a like, I would say, like a younger gameplay than like what the originals were like. I mean, I feel like once
Yeah.
they got to the one, and I can't remember what number this is, the one where they did the one, I think Scott just gave them permission to do this, if I'm remembering correctly. The one where they do the rooms in the house, but it's free roam.
I believe that yeah.
You know what I'm talking
I
about?
know what you mean.
Yeah, like once they got to that one, the feel of the game completely shifted. Like
Yeah.
it just felt more, I don't mean to dumb it down. Like, I don't think it's a kiddie game. I think it's still scary. I think it's still full attention and whatever. And I'm not like hating on the free roam one, but I just felt like that one was like their big jump from what it was to like kind of what it became. And I think it just kind of shifted a little bit as far as like the gameplay for the kids who are playing it now versus those of us that were pretty much adults when it came out originally. So,
Yeah, and with, speaking of Scott, I do think, just, like,
mhm.
cycling back around to, Willy's Wonderland being
Yeah.
in that perfect window, Willy's Wonderland, I believe, was released before the Scott Cawthon controversy, like,
Yeah,
so that's a whole other element to this where it's like
it's
we
true.
were at the height of like pro Scott Cawthon, like I don't want to
Well,
say propaganda, but that
I
was
know what
like
you mean though.
when the fan base had the most respect for him across the
Yes.
board.
Yeah.
And then, Blumhouse coming out and being like, "Here are your first looks at the movie," after that, where it's like, I don't know about everyone. Because it was one of those things, again, I just had a tremendous amount of respect for Scott as a creative.
Creator. Mhm.
Um, so going into that, I bought, I think, 3 FNAF games that I didn't even play because, like, I
You
was
could
kind
be
of in love with
supportive.
the franchise, but I wanted to be supportive, and that
Yeah.
hit, like, right around 2022, and then, like, we have this, and then Blumhouse coming out with the first looks at this movie, it was a great time to fall back on Willy's Wonderland, like,
They'd be like, "Oh, thank God we at least have this."
at least we have this. For a while, like, it's calmed down now to the point that I am more comfortable going to see it, but, like, when they first
Yeah.
started announcing it, it's like, I'm not even sure I wanna go see this in a theater, to be honest, like,
Yeah.
your timing is bad.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know if they just were like, "Well, we already had it planned to do it. We'll just do it this way," or if I don't know, but it was not very, it felt like a very, not super smart move. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it was,
Um, yeah. Well, and Willy's originally was written to be a FNAF movie, but of course the rights couldn't be obtained, and so I'm gonna be honest though, I think it's for the best. I
oh,
think that
yeah.
it worked out the way that it did, and I think that that's the best that's what should have happened. I think, I'm not saying that obviously if this had gone and been like an official FNAF movie that like, it wouldn't have still been great, but I think it not being fully FNAF is like some of the appeal, if I'm being honest. Like,
Yeah.
why, like, there's just things about this that are absolutely not Five Nights at Freddy's, and I love that. And I think that that's some of the appeal. So it worked out, I think, ultimately for the best as far as like from a viewer standpoint, because like if it had been exact, I don't know. I also think because I knew this wasn't exactly Five Nights at Freddy's, I went into it with a lot more of an open mind. I wasn't so like worried, or I didn't go in with like any thoughts already. Like I just went in like, oh, it's kind of like Five Nights at Freddy's, and then I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah. They had a lot more freedom to do, like, their own lore,
Yes.
and I'm sure we're gonna get into this, but, like, I
Mhm.
like the animatronic characters of Willy's Wonderland. They don't make any goddamn sense, and I love it so much.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's good.
I agree. Yeah. So you want to read us our synopsises?
Yes. So we had discussed, like, right before we started recording,
Yeah.
that this is going to break a little bit from our original format just because this isn't technically a video game movie.
Yep.
But we do have like side by side synopses, and I think for anyone that has played FNAF, especially, you can appreciate the similarities here. So Five Nights at Freddy's is
Mhm.
described. The series consists of horror-themed video games in which the player is usually a nighttime employee at a location connected with Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a fictional children's restaurant that takes inspiration from family pizza chains like Chuck E. Cheese's and the Showbiz Pizza Place. Um, Willy's Wonderland follows a quiet drifter who is tricked into cleaning up an abandoned family entertainment center as he is stalked by 8 murderous animatronic characters possessed by the souls of a cannibalistic killer and his 7 psychotic acolytes. Um, so I think that these the silent drifter, as he was referred to in the synopsis, our janitor, Nick Cage,
Yeah.
the fact that he is a silent protagonist makes it's one of the biggest similarities to FNAF because,
Sure.
like, you
You
have
don't
this
have a yeah.
you're a silent protagonist when you play FNAF, and then we have this, janitor who just does not talk, and he's just like he doesn't need to. He's doing great. Nick Cage uh, wanted to decided, of his own volition that he was going to use this particular movie to do an homage to silent films, and it just could not have worked better, like,
Yeah. Well, and he's the only one. I mean, obviously,
he's
like
the only one.
we meet other people, and they all are just like normal. And he
Yeah,
just he the amount of things he can convey with just his eyebrows is is so well done. Like he's such a an over the top character in general. But yeah, I think like I didn't know again going into it originally, and I didn't know that, but like I think that I have grown to appreciate it on like a whole nother level now that I've seen it multiple times because he just like he communicates everything with these. Because this doesn't move.
no.
The eyebrows. I love it. It's so great.
He does have very expressive eyebrows, and it's so funny because we know so I it's weird to look back at the first time I saw FNAF and realize it was only a couple years ago. I am now the co-host of the Nick F. and Woo Cage Cast, where we talk about Nick Cage movies
Hmm.
chronologically.
Yep.
Um, but I, at the time, had not seen very many Nicolas Cage movies, going into Willy's Wonderland. This was
Hmm.
not always a part of my personality that I was like, "Yay, Nick Cage." Um,
Yeah.
so it was like it was really weird because I had seen, like, part of National Treasure and, like, the Wicker Man remake and
Sure.
Raising Arizona, and that's, like, my Nick Cage, like, I
No
didn't
Con Air?
know Con Air yet,
Mm.
like, I did not have a good but, like, you see memes I had seen Vampire's Kiss, which I think is
Oh.
it's a ride.
Mm.
But it's like you see memes and stuff of Nicolas Cage yelling all the time and, like, being very expressive, very loud, like,
Yeah.
over the top,
Yeah.
hammy, memeable moments from Nick Cage, and then to just have him perform in a movie where he doesn't have any of that. It's just him, like, going in, cleaning, playing pinball. There's a dance sequence that's also, like, silent on his part, and then just kicking ass, like, these murderous animatronics come up, and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna kill this guy so I can keep cleaning."
It's like they're an inconvenience. It's like
What?
it's like he just goes, like city to city doing this for all the cities and like killing animatronics. Like he's just in the business for it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We don't know what he's described in the synopsis officially as a drifter, apparently. We
Yes.
don't know what he does, but
No.
he just the like no nonsense approach just really like sells this for me. And I love um it another good comparison for Nick Cage is Renfield, where
Mhm.
he's playing deadpan, very serious Dracula, and everybody else is in a comedy movie. Everyone is making a workplace comedy movie except Nick Cage. Like, I love these roles where he's just doing something different than everyone else
Everybody
on the
else.
team. Like, and this really feels like one of those. Like, he's like, I'm gonna be serious, no nonsense, silent film protagonist, and everyone else is just like doing a fun, hokey comedy movie around him. Like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because he doesn't even show, like, fear or anything. He just is
no.
just very, like, this neutral like, it's almost like when he has to stop to fight them, it's like he's checking boxes. He's like, "Alright, done with that, moving on to this," and you know what I think is so funny, and this is, like, one of I think, probably one of the funniest things to me, is that, like, he does a really good job of cleaning. Like the level of clean like one of my favorite segments is the bathroom segment when he goes into the
Yeah.
bathroom and he's getting all the graffiti and he cleans. And I'm like, what is this the same bathroom? Like he does such a good job. It's just like what?
I
It's so oddly like it keeps to the the story like it's weird, but it's so funny.
It's funny and it's cathartic, like,
It is.
because, it's, like, such a satisfying it's almost like a
It,
home renovation channel where, like, you're seeing these befores and afters and, like, it's so satisfying, but it's interwoven in, like, this silly B-movie narrative, and, um I so there's been this whole thing going around about cozy horror lately.
yeah.
This is my cozy horror movie where
Okay.
it's just like there's horror going on, but like we're going to improve this restaurant if it's the last thing we do, and we're not going to make a big like stressful deal out of it. Like we're just going to get it done. We're going to get it cleaned. Like it's going to look nice when we leave. Um like this is the first movie I associate with cozy horror, and I know that that's
I
like
can
not
see that.
the vibe, that generally gets associated with it, but Nick Cage just, like, coming in and cleaning the bathroom, just like
He genuinely like, and I love that it's like this music video, right? Because he's like, there's certain times when he's cleaning where there's like music playing and it's like sped up. It's like a montage of like all this. Oh, it's so smart. It's so funny. It's like you almost like don't even remember the threat for the first little bit, and
yeah,
then you hear something or you see something and you're like, oh right, we got to be on our guard. Like you forget, you get
yeah.
safe, you get lulled into this sense of safety by like somebody cleaning off, art on the wall or whatever, and you're just like, oh right, like there's also bad guys in here.
One of my favorite things is watching this movie with someone who has never seen it,
Hmm.
like, subjecting them to it for the first time, and because they have, like, all of these out loud questions that's like, "Is Nick Cage gonna talk?" And you're like, "No," and then it's like, "Why is he cleaning so well?" And then, like like, the alarm goes off and it's like, "Why is he going back to cleaning?" And you're like, "Yeah, why is he
Oh, and
going
you
back?"
know what? The other thing that's related to the cleaning that always like towards the end when he goes outside to throw something in the dumpster and he just like goes back inside because he's not
Yeah,
trapped anymore at that point. He's just like,
he's just like, "I'm gonna finish
it's
this."
oh no, it's so ridiculously funny.
And
I
at
love
the
this.
end, like, the full tour of the whole place cleaned out, like, it's just
Yeah,
it's
like
so good.
you're ready to like have your birthday there. Like it's ready to rock. Like you don't even need and like the details in these things, like he takes breaks in the break room. He
Yeah.
like what changes his shirt when he gets blood on it. I love it. Like there's so many like little details of things that just add to how you're feeling as you watch it. You don't even really necessarily think about it the first time you watch it. But the second time I really paid attention to like the shift from when he's out working in the restaurant to when he's in the break room. And the
Yeah.
break room is like the I don't know what I'm drawing a total blank. Like the not control room, is control room, well, office, the office
The
from the
Office,
game.
yeah.
Because it's like they don't go in there.
No.
that's like his safe space to play pinball and dance and drink his drinks, and then he goes back out and he finishes doing what he was. It's just such an interesting, like, break room. Like, it literally is. Like, it's just
It
so
is.
interesting that he, like, literally goes back and forth multiple times. And I just loved all of those details. I thought were just like, they just make all of everything about the way the film is done just even better, because you're just thinking like, okay, like, realistically, I wouldn't be able to let my guard down if I knew that animatronics were trying to murder me. Like, I'm not going anywhere and taking a break. I'm going to be trying to figure out how to get out of there. And he's just like, all right, break time. Like, he's got like his little thing set, and he's just, it's so crazy. And like, so far from what I think would be reality, but he's so unbothered by the animatronics that like doesn't even matter.
Yeah, that you buy it, like, 100%. My favorite scene, like, in that regard is when, he and Liv are fighting the animatronics, and, like, his watch goes off, and he just hands her the knife and gets
He's
back to
like,
the break room. It's like, "Break time." And you're like,
and she's like, uh,
it's like, it's just it's so good. I love it so
oh
much, but
my
it
goodness.
also like and it's one of those things, it makes it so unique as a movie, but it's also, like, a very gamer mindset. Like, not even FNAF specifically, but, like, you're
Yeah.
playing these really high tension games,
Yeah.
and then it'll be like, you know, 6 a.m. rolls around, it's time for a cutscene, you get a little break, have your drink, like, unwind. Um you have, like, these little breaks, and it's something that, FNAF does a little bit because it gives you these little breathers in between the nights.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Yeah.
what was it? The Pizza Simulator also did this a little bit, where it
Yep.
was like you have these little mini games and
That we're
there's
away
other stuff for you
from.
to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
It's
you
true.
can really feel the game influence in the way that Nick Cage presents himself in this movie, like, uh
Yeah.
he's just there doing his job and, having his little pinball intermissions and getting on with it, and it's like, I love this movie so much.
It's so fun. And like, and you know this, like, I'm not like, I'm kind of a weird like sell for things that are like horror comedies, but I
Yeah.
think the setup for this just works so well as a comedy. Like, because even though we're laughing and there's so many things that are funny and we just absolutely eat it up, there's also definitely horror. There's
Yeah,
definitely a bunch of really, like, like, fucked up things that happen there. There's a lot of gore, even though it's not all human gore. It is, the animatronic gore is a little bit different, but it is very gory. There's a lot of attack things that happen. A lot of people die, like, but it's just painted so perfectly well that it's just like it's meant to be. Like, I think if they had tried to do this too serious, I don't know that it would have worked as well. It really toes the line between the two. But it's like it just goes so well together. Like the comedy elements, the not comedy elements, like, and then like it's like the fight scenes, I get so into those. Like when he's fighting and he's like taking on these animatronics, I'm like, oh, like I'm like reacting, like I'm watching like a boxing match or something. Like it's so it just like pulls you in because all those elements just they meld so well together. Like it
they do.
works.
It really, really works. I love the fight choreography of
Oh
this
my God.
because it's like and it's one of those things this speaks to the, like, comedy horror aspect where it's
Mhm.
like, it's objectively funny because you
Yeah.
have silent Nick Cage fighting an animatronic for that's, like, possessed, but for
Mhm.
kids. So, like, the
Mhm.
visuals are just they're silly, it's baked in, but, like, they took it really seriously. Like, they didn't use that as excuse to just, like, you know, phone it in. Like, there's
No.
real fighting going on, the scenes are shot really well. They didn't slack off on the gore or anything. It's well done. And that I think is where a lot of the horror comes in, because it's like
Yeah.
you get immersed in this weird little universe that they've created and they don't break that immersion for you.
No. And then they went, they put all these details into like all of the animatronics. They all have like their own personalities. They all have their own like just things in general. So, like as we move through them, we don't really know what the next one's going to be like. I mean, you've got the alligator that's essentially Foxy, I think,
Yeah.
just based on the fact that like he just like shows up. And,
Yeah.
you know, but like, and then you've got, and I don't remember all of their names. I know there's obviously Willy, there's that frog character, the
Mhm.
gorilla, the bird, the ostrich, and then there's the one that speaks Spanish. Is it a parrot?
Yes.
What was that?
Uh,
Parrot?
there's also, we have to talk about Siren Sarah
Byron, Sarah. Yep. And
because
so yeah.
Siren Sarah just breaks my brain because they're all like real animals. Uh, and then there's just a siren, which arguably not it's just like the least appropriate concept for a children's mascot. And she's just there. And you're like, oh boy. And they have her dressed up. She's like a Tinkerbell
She does look like
style,
a fairy. Yeah, she looks like a
but
fairy.
her name is Siren Sarah. I just think that's it's so good. There's also a knight.
Oh, the knight was the seventh one. I couldn't think of who the other one was. The knight. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but Siren Sarah's my favorite just because why is she
Well, and then there's like that scene where she says there's like a kid, like a chubby kid, and she leans in and she says, what she's like, you want to fuck fatty or something like that. And he's just
Yeah.
like, Jesus,
It's so good.
oh God. And I love her scene in the forest when Liv first falls or gets into Willy's Wonderland. And she's like, there that whole thing is like so cool. And I'm sitting here thinking too, this is like I kind of have like mixed feelings about this because it also is like scary stuff, but then it also was like kind of cool because I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, damn, like if you're a kid and you had your birthday at a place like that, that's cool. That
Yeah,
room with like the fake trees and all the lighting and like I'm like, that's really cool.
I
It's
would
not
have
cool in the
loved
moment.
that as a kid. But then it
Yeah.
is really
Yeah.
creepy
It is
in the
creepy.
context of, like, the abandoned, we've got
Well, and
free
she's
roaming
like,
animatronics.
yeah, she's so fast and in and out of them, and you're like, oh, but it's conceptually pretty cool. Like,
Yeah.
I thought that was like really neat from a set piece, standpoint. I thought that was really cool because I'm like, I've never been anywhere that looked anything like that. Like, I just thought it was really cool.
It's also something I don't not to, like, throw FNAF under the bus here,
Hmm.
because we don't have as many I guess the fandom does, and, like, in some of the later games, but looking at the first Five Nights at Freddy's,
Hmm.
we see the animatronics creepy and possessed and,
Yeah.
like, after the wear and tear. Willy's Wonderland, I have a much easier time believing that these were, at some point, children's mascots, like,
Sure.
Willy's he's cute, he's like a fun little
Yeah.
fuzzy guy, and it's like
Yeah.
except for Siren Sarah, who I still maintain
She's
is like
definitely one
an
that as a
outlier.
kid, I would have been like, I don't know. Like, I feel like the other ones I would have been like, okay, fine. That's actually a really good point because they did a good job of making them definitely look like, they're shut down, right? Because it's been a
Yeah.
while. But they do still look like exactly like you said, like that they would have been very real. Oh my God. And when they're moving on stage and they're singing, it's your birthday, you're like, you're buying it. Like that
Yeah.
song, you're like, yeah, it's my birthday. You know what I mean? It's
I
so believable.
I unironically love the soundtrack for
Oh my
Willy's
God.
Wonderland. It's so good.
Listen, I feel the exact same way. I will be just doing stuff around the house or at work. And if I'm at home, I'm usually singing it. But if I'm at work, it's in my head and I'm like, no, no, no. Like it's so like, especially that song specifically. But the
Yeah.
music for this is so good. And it really like, and music is supposed to do this, but it doesn't always. It really like exaggerates the moments that it really makes you like, I feel like makes you feel the things that you're supposed to feel during those scenes.
Yeah.
It's effective.
It works. And it works on so many levels because it's like you can kind of hear it's that earworm thing, you can kind of hear that like annoying, like, oh, it's for kids kind of quality, but you also want to listen to it and it's creepy when it needs to be, it's
Yeah.
inviting when it needs to be, like it works
Mhm.
on so many levels. That and the head, shoulders, knees and toes cover
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
blows
yes.
my brain because it's like that is the most irritating song from my childhood. I hate it so much. I will listen to it from Willy's
It's so great.
Wonderland.
No,
Like
I
it just they
yeah,
did a
no, I
great
totally
job.
agree. They did such a great job. It's whoever like, the people who worked on this, they really like did a lot of really intentional things. Like it's just
Yeah.
like, this wasn't just like something that was just thrown together like, oh, we didn't get the rights to do Five Nights at Freddy's, let's just throw together a movie. Like there was a lot of love and effort put into this film, and I think it's obvious because of the execution, because of the way the different story elements tie together, because of the set pieces, because of the characters, because of the animatronics, because of the music. And it's literally like it's perfect. Like I don't have a
It
single negative
works.
thing to say about Willy's Wonderland. Not a single one.
No, I don't either. This is
Yeah.
we actually just did on Slasher Radio like our list of 100 horror movies, and this was on mine. And I think everyone thought I was kidding about it, but it's like, no, I'm not. Like I love this movie so much. And it all works. Like there are a lot of B
Mhm.
movies like this where I feel like you could kind of like pick and choose elements that did and didn't work, where it's like,
Sure.
I didn't like this character, or this was unbelievable to me, this broke the scale, but this as a whole collection is so immersive
Mhm.
that you're like it's hard to nitpick at stuff even if you want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. And I think because they did such a great job at making it immersive, the things that like don't really make sense, we don't care about.
No.
Like
There's a guy.
like the setup for this is, they lay down the spikes, they catch somebody, right? They're like, "Oh, I can take care of your car, but you're going to have to stay the night here, but here's the catch, you got to clean it." Like it's the same, thing
Yeah.
over and over again. And we learned they got so worried about these animatronics getting out of the building and attacking people, because that's what happened, that they're like, "Oh, well, we'll just bring you people and we'll just have an agreement and everything will be all cool." But like what happens if like nobody comes? Or like
Yeah.
like there's tons of things you can ask. I don't really care. Doesn't matter. Like when I watch this, perfect. Makes tons of sense. I'm on board for it. Like I don't even care. It just works. And then like, and I like I remember watching it the first time and getting to, the introduction of the teens or the young I think they're supposed to be teenagers, the teenagers. And I was just kind of like, we'll see. I ended up not minding them. Like I mean, I think they definitely have a very they're very tropey. They have like, their little things. But I still thought it was fine. They killed most of them off so fast, it didn't even matter. Like you still got time, because the animatronics and Nick Cage are the ones that you're wanting to watch, the ones that you're caring about. And of course eventually like I came to really care for the girl. Liv, is that her name? The girl,
Live,
the main
yeah.
girl. And so, but like I remember thinking like, oh, teenagers, but they were fine and their deaths were great. And it ended up like not really taking away anything. And it just, I mean, it made sense. They wanted to stop it. They knew somebody was in there. Liv knew somebody was in there. I was fine with all of that. Like I thought that was fine.
They did, I this throws me back to, like, the, like, late '70s, early '80s style of horror where we had just an excess amount of expendable teens in movies. That was just the thing. But I think what Willy's Wonderland does that's really exceptional is we have those tropes where it's like you kind of identify the teens. You're like, there's the one that's in love with Liv, there's the
The
girl obsessed
couple.
with death, there's his
Yep.
boy. Like, yeah,
Yep.
you
Yep.
can kind of like you have things that you can remember which one's which by, and you don't
Mhm.
really learn their names. They're not super relevant, but what I love is that unlike in a lot of those like camp slashers of the '80s, and I say this as someone that loves those movies also, but those
Sure.
were very like they spent a lot of time kind of drilling those tropes into you. And Willy's Wonderland, the cast interacts with each other. You learn just enough to tell them apart, and then they're dead. Like it's like they're expendable. We're going to treat them like they're expendable. The context you get is going to be them talking to one another, not them laying things out for the audience. Like they felt like a real
Yeah.
group of friends.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's like, yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think that's a perfect way to say it, because they genuinely like some of those times you get, this info dump with all the relationship dynamics, and you get these like but the relationship dynamics that we get are circumstantial, and the circumstances make sense to the main story, to what we're trying to accomplish or get out of it. And so, we get them coming in and breaking Liv out. Okay. Then they all go to Willy's. Okay. They're like, oh, we got to go help her. Okay. They get up, they finally convince, like they all get up upstairs, not upstairs, on the roof. And then, they're all inside. They split up like you do. And then most of them die.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly. I think the last two standing is Liv and the not love interest, but the one that was like in love with her. And then he also goes. And then it's just her and Nick Cage.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's all we need. And they do a really
Yeah.
good job too, getting Liv's backstory in there. Like, we didn't spend too much time with her. We had that like vague illusion of like, ooh, it's an ensemble cast, but we knew her best by the end
Yeah.
when it's not an ensemble cast, it's just her and Nick Cage. And that's
It's just
really
her.
what we wanted. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I love, like, one of my favorite lines. It's like so dramatic. It makes me laugh every time I hear it. Is when she's like trying to tell the sheriff or whatever. She's like, no, you don't understand. He's not trapped in there with them. They're trapped in there with him. And she's like getting like escorted out. I was
yeah.
just like, I was like, that's so perfect. I love it so much. Love
Um,
it.
Which I think is great, because there is that element to this movie where it's
Mhm.
like, not that you feel bad for the animatronics or anything, but,
God,
like,
no.
you do feel like he is, because he is so nonchalant about taking them out one by one, and you can almost envision a movie where, like, they're scheming how to get rid of him, like, behind the scenes, where they kind of are, like, the not the victims, but,
Yeah.
like, he's in their space and, they're trying to get rid of him and then he starts killing them off one by one and,
Mhm.
like they really are trapped in there with him. And that's something that the movie does a great job to convey without
Yeah.
ever, you know.
Yeah, and there's like that scene like when we're winding down, like we've lost a lot of animatronics and people at this point, and Willie just like narrows his eyes. He doesn't move. There's no other part of him that moves. It's just his eyes. But he's like, "You
Yes.
son of a bitch!" Like you can tell he's like getting fed up. He's like, "All right, enough's enough." And I think too, like the build up to like the big showdown between Willie and Nick Cage is like perfectly paced, because we got a little bit of one-on-one time with most of the character, with most of the animatronics, and then we obviously got the one with Siren and the frog person together for a very brief period of time with Nick, where he had like, that's when he's handcuffed. I think he's
Yeah.
handcuffed at that point. So I, oh my god, and he literally like the Siren. Oh my god, that fight, that like part is one of my favorites. Like I like that one, the bathroom, and my next favorite is probably the one that does with Willie. But like the setup to get him, like it's like a boss fight. It's
Yeah.
like you're doing stages of things. You're getting some story here, you're fighting something. You're getting some story here, you're fighting something. And then it's like the big one that you've been building up to is like Willie. And it delivered. It
It
delivered like
does.
a 10 out of 10. It was perfect.
It's it's so good. And I also love to that he's I feel like handled in a lot of contexts, this could have been more of like a revenge movie than it was. Like they trick him into doing this thing and then he's trapped in here and he has to survive. And then, like, is he going to be pissed, because he's going to be a badass by the end of the movie. What I love about this is he's a badass going in. They're like, hey, like, come clean our restaurant and we'll fix your car. And he's like, deal. And he goes in there, he cleans the restaurant, he barely notices that there's a bunch of things trying to kill him. He gets his job done, and then he's just like, deal accomplished, and takes his car and leaves. And like, there's not a, he doesn't, we see them get what is coming to them at the end of the movie, clearly, but like, he doesn't try to enact that. He doesn't stick around to try and get even, he's just like, yeah, deal's a deal. Like, and I love that. I love the attitude so much.
He's not even like, well, like now that he's done this, now he can get, yeah, exactly. No revenge. He's just like, yeah, I'm good. Like, and that's like the same thing as like what I was saying, when he like literally just walks out, throws some trash out and goes back inside.
Yeah,
He's
just
just
like,
like that. She's sitting outside with that shotgun, like prepared to see if he tries to come out. She's going to make him go back in, but he's like, yeah,
I've
whatever.
got
And he's
cleaning
just,
to do.
and
Like,
it's so ridiculous. And like the reckless, like or not reckless, the nonchalant way that he carries the trash bags of the dead animatronics to the door. He's just like, oh, gotta clean these up too. And he like puts them in the trash bags and puts them, and then when the kids realize it, that I thought that was so funny. They're like looking at the bags, they're like, oh, like it's so good.
It's so good. Man, I love this movie so much. And it's one of those just any part of this could have gone so wrong, and
True.
it didn't, like they nailed it across the board. There's also I don't know where to bring this up because it's not a criticism or like a high point of the movie. It's just we have to talk about the assistant guy to Tex that constantly has a Slim Jim in his mouth instead of a cigar. I don't know why. I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's hilarious where he's just like it's never addressed, like
Yeah.
and there's so many weird little things about this, that just don't come up too much, but they're just going on. And
Well,
like
and
the
I think
girl that can
that
pick locks and they don't make a big deal about it. It's just like
she
this
just
is a thing she
can.
can do. Um,
Yeah, and I think well, and the people are like the wackiest of the setup, not the animatronics. Like
no.
these type, like when they're sitting at the police station and the phone rings and she's like, oh, shit, because it's not supposed to ring, and she answers it and she goes, get the hell out of there, and she closes she slams the phone down. She just leans back in the chair, and he's like, and the deputy's like, what the fuck, like and then they end up having to go, and then he ends up dying. But it's just like the people are the wackiest part of this. It's not the animatronics.
Absolutely. I don't know if this is like I don't know how much you want to read into the social commentary of Willy's Wonderland, but I love the world building setup where it's like there are 7 animatronics here that are going to kill you if you come into this restaurant, and then if you don't do that, they're going to come out and kill you. And the police react by making a deal with the satanic puppets instead of like doing anything else. They're just like, "We cave immediately. We'll bring you human sacrifices." And I just like that's one of those things because you're not the first time you watch this, there's so much to take in, and on
Sure.
subsequent rewatches, it's just like I love how we got here. Like I love that there's
Yeah,
like
because what is it? They found like 3 dead bodies, and she was like, whatever you want. Like,
whatever you they're gods now. The animatronics just own this town. And all it took was one very dedicated Nick Cage to bring it to an end. Like they could have gotten bounty hunters, they could have called the FBI, they
they
could
could have
have
tried to burn it down,
torched the place.
which is
Like
what the kids were gonna try to do.
and the kids were more proactive about it than like the police or the politicians or the owner of the like haunted restaurant, He's just like, no, gotta bring human sacrifices in. I just
I think that's such a fair point. And I think it's another thing. It's like because of the way that this movie makes it's just such a fun movie and it's so enjoyable. It's like it just makes sense. You're like, yeah,
yeah.
I buy it. Like whatever, yeah, sure. Like it's and you're right as far as like the commentary thing. I didn't really think about that, but in terms of like doing the most ridiculous thing instead of like the super obvious things that would actually be better for everybody and not just you. Like, and I hadn't really thought about that. That's actually a really good point because yeah, like as soon as they find those bodies, they like go and they're like, whatever, we'll do whatever. Like, we'll bring you people. It's like, and then I'm wondering because like the animatronics don't talk, right? So, like, how did they know for sure? I don't know. I feel like if they're that bloodthirsty, maybe they would have just killed them too, and then they could have everybody in the town. It would make a difference, right? But you just don't care. Like you're like watching
No.
it and you have the questions. They're there. They exist. There's like things that don't really make any sense, but you're like, I don't care. I love it.
And then and it makes it very believable too, in like a weird way, because that's kind of how people are. Like because you can poke fun at like societies that are supposed to protect you and don't. But honestly, if I had to deal with an animatronic puppet, I'm probably more like the police than like Nick Cage, where it's like if I don't know that I would come up with the idea of human sacrifices on my own, but like if my boss tells me, "Hey, bring these human sacrifices," or this murderous puppet's gonna kill you. This is just how this town works. Like, I think it takes someone really brave to question that kind of a town. Like
No, I think that's a good point. I
like,
think
you
that's a
don't
good
wanna
point.
dig into those you don't wanna find out how this happened, you just don't want it to come back around on you, you know? Like
Yeah, well, and then, like, it's crazy because like, the story for Liv was that they, like, knowingly sent in a family
yeah.
with a small child because she was little at the time that happened, and then they, like she was the only survivor, they killed her parents, and she's like, "Oh, let me raise you, you're amazing, you're the best thing that ever happened to me," and I'm like, "Do you know why it happened, lady?" Like, Jesus Christ, like, the amount she's like, "I care about," like, she's like, pitching this whole, like, adoptive mother type deal, and you're like, "You literally made her an orphan, like, it's literally your fault." Like, I don't it's such which, of course, is why, like, Liv has so much disdain for this woman. She's just like, "Oh, you are the worst."
I love that dynamic so much because there's such a complex character where it's like, she personally has seen the destruction of like she's contributed to this destruction in the town. She's directly responsible for all of these deaths. She has this blood on her hands. She willingly sacrifices a child and then she's so moved by the fact that the child survives. She adopts her. We know she considers her a daughter, like, but it never causes a rift in her belief of sacrificing people to the killer animatronics. Like, the compartmentalization in this woman is insane. And then, like, and then it's so good to pair her with Liv, who does not see her as a mother figure. Like, because she shouldn't, Liv's just like,
No.
done with the bullshit. She hates this woman. She hates the society. She's willing to get herself thrown in jail to like torch
Yeah,
the place. And I just,
yeah.
I, their dynamic is also really, really good.
Yeah, well, and Liv was old enough to remember.
Yeah.
It's not like she was a baby.
No.
She's old enough. I mean, I would say what, based on how long it had been, like, she'd been, like, what, 8 maybe? Close to 10? Definitely not so small that she wouldn't remember, like, "Y'all fucking put us in here. What you mean come home with me?" Like, so and it shows, like, she has so much disdain for her, and she just, like, kind of ignores her as, like, a problem as far as, like, the goal to, like, burn the place to the ground because they don't want any more people to die.
Yeah.
The teens don't want any more people to die. And then it's like the when we get the story breakdown of like when she's telling the story to Nick Cage about like what happened, like why are the animatronics like this? It's like I laugh because it's like it shows these people, and then it shows them in the circle or whatever. And you're just like, that's not how that works. Like they're just like they're all laid out and they're all like, okay, like they've got the drawing. So clearly it's like occult stuff. And they just come in, they find them, and they're like, all right. And they're like, oh, you know what we should do? We should reopen the place where that happened, where those like bodies were found in suggestive situation where it's like clearly they were doing something or trying to do something. And it's like, it would be a great idea, we should reopen this. It'll be fine. What could possibly go wrong? It's like the setup for that too was just so humorous. I mean, it's dark and it's definitely like not funny in context, but like it is funny though. Like it's just
It
very like over the top. Like not only was there one bad person that hurt children and ate people, there was like a bunch of them. And then they like took their own lives after doing these elaborate things in the birthday room. What's the party room or whatever it is,
yeah.
whatever it's called. And it's just like and then and then it cuts back to Nick Cage and he's just like it's just like okay, I gotta clean, I got stuff to do. I don't what do you want from me? Like he doesn't say anything.
And again, it's one of those things where it's like you don't need to put that much onto the like emotional layers of this movie because it's a fine movie. It works. But
Yeah, I
I
agree.
do really think that there is something there. There's a narrative thread there about how like momentous and like how being too close to an issue can make it seem like a bigger issue than it is. Like Nick Cage
Yeah.
is coming at this as an outsider. He's
Yeah.
not attached. He's like, I've got to kill these animatronics. And there's the situation where Liv, who's had her whole life ruined by these fucking things, is
Mhm.
trying to explain to him how wrapped up the town is in it and how serious it is and the history. And like you can see why it's such a big issue for her and why she cares about it so much, but this is the first time she's like trying to do anything. She goes like this real extreme reaction where it's all or nothing. This is a war for Liv. And Nick Cage is like, it's the animatronics. I can take care of those. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
no
gonna go
big
do
deal.
that. We're just gonna clean this place out. Like, and I love again, it's the dynamics in this are so interesting because like you
Mhm.
watch it and it's a silly movie, but there's like real stuff going on under the surface where it's like
Yeah.
you can just take care of it, like when you're not personally involved, there's nothing
It just the way that you
like
go about it's completely different. No, you're absolutely
yeah.
right. Yeah. And their shift is funny because like he's like that character that's like so far removed because like you said he's coming in, he's just like literally checking boxes. Like, all right, this thing's in my way. Let me get rid of this and then I can get back to what I was doing. Oh, let me take my break. Like he's got like his things. And like the scene where you were talking about earlier where like he just leaves her ass in there with a knife. He's like, good luck. He like doesn't care. Like she could have died.
She
She
could
could
have.
have. And then at the end, you get this really cute moment where she like gets in the car with him and he shares a drink and like you're just kind of like, I still am not sure if he cares. Tell if it's just like, you're not going to leave me alone, are you? Okay, fine. Like, but it's just very like, because again, there's no dialogue. And then at the end, she's not saying anything either. And I
Yeah.
thought that was like a fun little, like, I seriously, like, I'm sure we are well past this and it may never happen. I would watch a series of these two going town to town and solving issues like this. Like, I would watch an entire series on that, like multiple movies, whatever. I would watch it because I think it would be like so fun and so entertaining.
I would also, while we're talking about things that we would want from the Willy's Wonderland universe, I even though we're doing this for game adaptations, it was very clearly inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's. I would love a Willy's
Yeah.
Wonderland game. I want the pinball
Oh,
mini game.
yeah.
I want it to be like Power Wash Simulator where you're just occasionally there's a jump scare and then you have to fight an animatronic puppet. Like I want to be Nick Cage in this world. Like
Yeah, and then instead of like the nights, like the shifts are broken up by like things like you have
hour
to
or
clean.
like yeah, and you have like a
Yeah,
task list for each thing, you get bonus points for drinking your punch cola or whatever it is, and
whatever
like
it is.
I just oh man.
That really would be, especially if they did something that was free roam.
Yeah.
Like they could really play with like that, like making some of it free roam and then having, like you said, the mini games. That would be a lot of fun. Did you?
I
I know I asked you that. I've
oh, I
asked you
want
this probably like 10 times and you always answer me and I never remember what you said. You have or have not seen the Banana Splits movie.
I have now.
Okay.
It's been on my list forever. Uh,
Okay.
and I think last month finally got the chance to see it.
Okay. What did you think of it? Because it came out
It was
before
fun.
this.
It did.
Yeah.
It was one so I had like the exact I don't want to say the exact opposite. This was one of those rare movies that I heard a decent amount of hype for and was still hypes coming out of.
Yeah.
Usually nothing ruins a movie for me like too much hype going in. And that's kind of how I
Oh.
felt. I followed the Banana Splits movie for a long time.
Mhm.
I was really excited for it. It wasn't streaming anywhere for a while, and I
Yeah, I
heard
know.
like too many reviews about it.
Mhm.
I think having a little bit of distance helped, but
Sure.
also what did not help was already having Willy's Wonderland because that was
Oh,
another
because by the
one.
time you got to it, you had already yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because I that void had already been filled, like, when I was really
I
excited and
see.
waiting for the Banana Splits movie, I was like, "I want to see something like this," and then I got something that is kinda like this,
Mhm.
but I do think, like, as a groundwork movie for killer animatronics,
Mhm.
it did a lot really, really well.
Yeah,
Um,
well, and did you watch that stupid show growing up?
no.
So see, I did. Like, I watched it. It came on either before or after Space Ghost Coast to Coast on the Cartoon Network when, like, everybody's supposed to be in bed, but, you turn TV on anyway because you wanna watch it and your parents are asleep. And so I watched it. I remembered the song, I remembered the skits, like the intro. Like I very much watched the Banana Split show. So when I heard, and the reason I heard about the Banana Splits movie was because of the kill count, Dead Meat
Oh, yeah.
or Dead Meat. So James did an episode on the Banana Splits movie, and I watched it because I mean, what could it ruin? Like, it's fine. Like, it's just you know what I mean. It's not like there's not going to be like
Yeah.
a plot twist or like a. And I was like, so I got about halfway through, and I turned the episode. I was like, I got to find this movie and watch it. And I watched it, and I did watch it before Willy's, but it was not long before I saw Willy's too, because I was very late to the Banana Splits game as well. I loved it too. I don't think it's as strong of a movie as Willy's, but it was a lot of fun, and it
It's
really,
fun.
I mean, like, I would probably watch anything about anime, like anything like that. I would be like here for.
It does really well, in the first of all, yes, we need more just, like, killer animatronic stuff.
Yeah,
I want one. I know that the rights would be a nightmare for this. I would love one that goes back into the adult entertainment industry that was the foundation of Chuck E. Cheese, because that started as, like, a casino/bar. slash
yeah,
bar. I would
yeah.
love to see that horror movie with the actual Chuck
That
E.
would be
Cheese
cool.
characters. But, like,
Yeah,
this is a genre of horror that I like. It's very
mhm,
niche, but it's
yeah,
there's a lot of potential there. I But with Banana Splits also, it represents, because you had actually watched the show, I hadn't,
yeah.
but I love this wave of, like, public domain children's stuff where we're getting, because for me, it was Blood and Honey,
Blood and Honey. Yeah,
but it was like, but I grew up watching Winnie the Pooh, and
yep,
then,
yeah.
as an adult that likes horror, I get the horror sequel essentially where, I have Blood and Honey. I'm loving and I still haven't seen Tasha actually keeps telling me that I need to watch the mean one.
The Grinch one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but like,
I haven't seen either. Not for any
Blood and Honey
reason
is so
other
good.
than I just
Just
haven't. You know what
they're
I
hard
mean?
to find,
There,
yeah.
it's not like
And then you have
and
to
then
find time, and then like,
yeah, and I think, and what's true is like, and I'm sure you have, I'm sure that you probably feel this way sometimes too. I think anybody that enjoys watching any types of movies gets this, but like, there's certain like subgenres and certain types of horror that I just really have to be in the mood for. And
yeah.
if I'm not in the mood for them, I'm gonna hate it, and then it's like a tainted experience, right? Whereas like, so I have to be in the mood to watch something silly or something more like over because like Blood and Honey, I think is coming to Peacock in October or something. It's
Yeah.
coming to something in October.
I
So I
think
will
it's
finally
Peacock, I could be
watch
wrong.
it. I mean, like it's just one of those things that's like like the kid stuff for like yeah, I'm with you. Like I think I grew up with Winnie the Pooh as well, but I have a sister who's a little bit older than us, and she like was obsessed with Winnie. Like when my nephew was born, she did his whole nursery and like classic Winnie the Pooh, like the old ones, and like that's all I mean, she's like super super invested. And I wanted to go see it with her, but we live in different cities, and that we just couldn't make it work to like meet to go see it. And so, like, but yeah, I love stuff like that. And I mean, and the same thing with like Five Nights at Freddy's being like, Chuck E. Cheese. And the other one I'm not familiar with. It said it was Chuck E. Cheese, and what was the other something pizza?
Oh, yeah, the oh god, what's the name? Yeah, I already
Something
closed the
pizza,
thing.
whatever. I don't know what that one is. I'm unfamiliar. But I mean, I definitely went to Chuck E. Cheese. And you know what's crazy? Like first of all, I don't like things dressed up. I think it's a very weird thing that we do in life that doesn't make any sense.
It's
Like,
so good.
and I remember like being like seriously like 12 years old. I went to Chuck E. Cheese with my nephew who was like 3 or maybe 4. He's walking really good, so he's at least 2. And I was holding him while we were playing a game. And periodically, Chuck E. Cheese comes and he walks around. And I put my nephew on the ground and I ran in the opposite direction. I left him there for dead. Like, and it's like my sister was like, "What the hell?" She was like, "So, like, are you kidding me right now?" Like, it was funny because I mean, obviously he wasn't hurt. Like, we were all kind of together, so it was like nothing bad happened. But it was one of those things where she was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "Look, I don't care that I'm in the minority. You are the weird ones for not being bothered by something dressed like a giant gray rat. It's not appealing and it's not cute, and I don't want it near me or asking to take pictures. So I'm sorry, I'm like I'm out." Like, I can't, like, and they would do them at the skating rinks. They would have these, like, people dressed up in animals, I don't know why, at the skating rink, and I'm like, "What, why? For what reason?" I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's not funny. It's scary. These things are scary. They sound scary. They look scary. They act scary. I'm scared. I don't like them. Like the whole premise of like Chuck E. Cheese is on stage as the animatronic and then suddenly he just looks normal and soft. I don't think so. I'm not.
I had a really tough time as I ended up being okay, at Chuck E. Cheese. I was fine, but I did get, like, and this was an early sign that I might grow up into an adult with anxiety, but I remember the first time I was about to go to Chuck E. Cheese, I wasn't sure what it was,
Mhm.
like, because we didn't have them in the area where I had been living, and then we moved out to, Ohio. I get
Oh, okay.
invited to a friend's birthday party, we have
Yeah.
Chuck E. Cheese out there. I'm
Yeah.
not sure where we're going. Like, I don't understand what it is. And like, I remember my parents trying to explain it to me, and it sounded horrifying. Where I was like, they're like animals in a band on stage, but they're big, and I'm like, what? And they're like, why? Why would you do that? And then, dad's like, they're robots. They're like mascots. And I'm like, okay. And mom's like, but also some of them are like people in suits. And I was like, what? Why? Like, I don't know. In my head,
Oh
there
my
were like just these massive live animals on stage singing with robots, and then like men in suits coming around with rat heads to serve me pizza. And I was like, I don't want to go anymore. Like, we have to turn the car around. I don't like any of what's
God.
happening.
Oh.
Um, and then I got there and it was a Chuck E. Cheese, and I was like, "Oh, this is great. I can play arcade games all day. There's pizza,
Sure.
whatever."
Oh my
Like,
God. That's
I
so
don't care.
funny.
But I got so in my head about it because it's like
Yeah.
this is a lot of information to put on a kid like 5 minutes before you arrive at a venue. Like,
I've never even thought about what it would be like. Like if you were trying to describe to someone who was blind what they're
yes,
going into, I
like
think it would
what's
be
happening?
exactly what you were just saying, and they would just be like, "Can you please get me out of here? Like, I don't wanna be here anymore." And there's like it always thought it was so strange. People like kids like rush up to this thing to take pictures, and I'm like, "Why? So you
And
can put a picture of you hugging a gray rat on your fridge at home, like, y'all are the weirdos, okay? Like, I'm not bizarre, you're bizarre.
And it was like I was at a weird age for it too, because I was starting to come to terms with the fact that like some stuff wasn't real. I think I might have been
Yeah,
young enough I still believed in Santa.
sure,
But like it was I was starting to figure some stuff out,
sure.
where it's like and then it was like I didn't know if the other kids at the I had like this weird meta experience too, where it's like I don't know if the kids at the party believe that the mascots are real. I don't know if they believe that the robots are real. Like
You're
what
having, like
how
you're at
how
Chuck
do
E.
I
Cheese for a
act?
birthday party, you're having, like, an existential crisis.
Yeah, like, are my friends idiots? Like, do I have to go along with this? Do I have to pretend he's a giant rat? Like, what's the what's the expectation for me at this event? This is what it was like to raise young cat. By the way,
My friend's
I was a
idiot. Oh
nightmare.
my god. I'm definitely using that clip for our promo for when this goes out. Oh oh my god, literal tears.
It's like
Oh
it's
my
a
god,
very
that was so
weird
funny.
premise for an establishment. Like, which
Oh my
I think it's
god.
why, like,
Whew.
FNAF resonated with me as an adult because, like,
Yeah.
I got on
They're
board with the
fucking
horror
scary.
game much easier. My best friend has an older sibling who is very, like, in tune with what games are about to be popular. Uh, like,
That's a good skill to have. Are
it's
they a
an
Let's Player?
amazing skill to have. I've played a lot of games, like, right before they surged and were very spoilery everywhere, but
Mm.
so and it's one of those things, they text me about a game, I play it, no questions asked. I'm like, "I've gotta
Yeah,
get on
that's
this."
awesome. Yeah.
And one of them was FNAF. It was, like, the week that FNAF came to Steam, and they text me and they're like, "Cat, horror game animatronics at an abandoned pizza place," and I was like, "That makes sense as a horror game premise." Like, these things are creepy as fuck. Like, why I don't know
Yeah.
why we would have this at a children's establishment, but I understand why it's a horror game. Like, I'm getting on board. And I bought it, like, that day and played it, and that was how I, like, got into FNAF because they know when,
Yeah. I think FNAF is probably going to be the only game we talk about that I have actually never played. I have
Oh,
only ever done that's not true. Have I played one of them? Maybe I played the room one, the one where because that one feels like I don't remember. I know I haven't played all of them. These were ones that scared me so bad that I like watched people play them. I did let's plays.
yeah.
So like it was probably, but it's the only one like that because, and the reason is because I think I tried and I got so scared. And I think that was around the same time I discovered Markiplier because, he was like their fanboy. Like he blew that, like he was like part of the marketing team or something for like a while. He's like FNAF everything. And so I watched his playthroughs of the first one and maybe Sister Location, maybe. I don't know. I know I watched all of them eventually, but that was what started because I couldn't play it. Like I tried and it was like, nope. I'm scared of those things in real life. So like I'm like, this is too fucking I have to do what? I can't this is not I can't do it. Like I can't do it. It's too much for me. And so the only other game like that, um, which I don't even think we've talked about as a potential episode, but the only other game like that that I tried really hard to play and I fucking couldn't is Slender Man. That's the only
Ooh,
one that I couldn't do because that one of the only other ones because it scared me so bad. I'm like, I don't like why do we I was like I'm so confused by the premise like and the thing is I love Slender. Well, you know this. I'm a huge fan of Slender Man because he's fucking scary. Like I
scary.
can't play the so anyway, so I'm like, I know the stories. I've watched people play them. Like I know them very well. But it's one of the only. I think it's if we ever decided to do Slender Man, those would be the only two that were turned into something that I couldn't play because they scared me too much.
That's how my best friend is. Like Markiplier was a huge and
Mhm.
he is still to this day like one of the biggest FNAF fans I know, but he experienced it all through Markiplier because he
Yeah,
can't play games like that. And I
yeah,
remember that might have been FNAF might have been what finally got me on board with Markiplier also because for a long time I couldn't understand I had
the
gamer
appeal.
mindset. So I was like, if I
Oh,
want to experience a game, I'm going to play
I'll
it
play it.
myself. Like, why
Yeah,
would I watch but Markiplier was, like, a really good bridge between the 2 of us
yeah,
because it was like, he's like, "I'm never going to play this game, but I can watch
yeah,
Markiplier play this game," and,
yeah.
I do think that that's one of my big issues, I think not issues because I think the casting is fine. One thing that would have gotten me on board much faster for the actual Five Nights at Freddy's movies is if Markiplier had been cast, like, such a big opportunity, especially because he's, like, moving into more acting
Film
roles.
stuff. Yeah,
I
yeah.
that would have been fantastic to
And it would
see.
have. I think it also would have gained that same like feeling for a lot of people because a lot of people watched him play FNAF and a lot of people got the earlier exposure to FNAF because he played it. Like that's like,
Yeah.
and I had heard about the game. I tried to play it. I couldn't. And I was like, I really want to see like what happens. And so that was when I learned about Let's Players. I'm like, that's a thing. I mean, of course, everything's a thing, right? But I was like,
Everything's
oh, that's cool. And so, but he was the first person that I ever watched play a video game. And it was
Yeah.
something that I just was like, this is oddly entertaining. Like, I don't like, there's
Yeah.
some of them that are not entertaining that are really irritating. And there's a lot of them I cannot watch, but he was fine. Like, I thought, he was funny, he was engaging, he seemed legitimately scared, like, so yeah, I think you're right that was a missed opportunity.
Really
So
good.
Five Nights at Freddy's comes out on the 27th.
Yes.
Is that right? Comes out on
Yes.
the weekend of the 27th, rather. Are you going to go see it opening night?
I think so.
Okay.
My October schedule gets really crazy, so I haven't, inked in, but I'm going either on the 27th or on the 28th, and we're gonna
Yeah.
see
I don't.
which
Yeah, I don't know which one we'll do. We'll probably working on Friday and we live in different spaces, so it'd probably be like more complicated. Well, I don't know. We'll see. Probably Saturday though. It'd probably be easier, maybe better to go during the day because it's PG-13 opening Friday
Yeah.
night. I don't know. So
How
maybe go in the middle of the day.
do your theaters? Because I know that this is kind of a, local, like disconnect here. Do your theaters do the like 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock shows the day before?
They
I
do.
might see if I can do that.
They do
Um,
Thursday. So yeah, so there will be some
Thursdays.
times in the bigger theaters on Thursday. But well, I don't know, maybe the smaller ones. I'm telling PG-13 horror is like its own thing. Like, so it's very
It is.
possible, that it'll have more times. Well, it's crazy because like I was looking up we bought Saw tickets today, and I was like looking um at the times for like the opening night and for Friday, and
Yeah.
they're like, weren't that many. And I'm like, for what reason? Like, this is a big movie. It's the weekend before October, like, but they just didn't have that many.
It's
They
crazy.
released a couple, like I think we just got the movie times for the theater we wanted to go to today because it's a little bit smaller. And I would prefer if nobody else but me went to see the movies at the theater. Like I'm like,
I
I would love that.
Theater etiquette is getting out of control. Like, we came back from the pandemic, and now no one knows how to behave in a theater anymore,
Yeah, and we
to the
already
point
weren't doing great. Like,
no, like, it's never been
yeah.
a great time, but it's one of those things where I used to be, like, opening day every movie just because I liked being in a theater, and now it's getting harder and harder to get me to go see stuff because I just, like it's
It's
like, I don't
exhausting.
wanna deal with the people there.
I know, and I'm not the type of person, big shocker. Like I won't just sit there and like listen to people carry on. Like I'll say something. And like we went and saw this was last year around this time. They did $4, $3 movie days or something. But we went and saw Jaws on the IMAX.
Mhm.
And because I've never seen Jaws on the big screen. I've never gotten to do that. So we went to do that for my birthday. And there were these like teens, because Jaws is PG, right? PG? PG-13.
I
PG. They didn't have
Yeah.
PG-13 yet.
No.
Um, so anyway, so there's like these kids, teens, whatever, sitting in like a couple rows down, and we were about at our wits end, and literally like on the cusp of me finally getting up and saying something, this like massive guy stood up and told them to shut up or get out, basically. And
I
they
need
were
to
just
go
like,
to that theater.
and I was laughing because as soon as the lights got up, those kids were nowhere to be. They had like booked it as soon as the movie was over. But like people, first of all, going to the movies is not cheap.
No.
Second of all, some of us don't get to go that often. And so, like, stop it. Like, stop it. And
Yeah.
with this being PG-13 and PG-13 horror, it is a little like, ugh, so I'm probably going to try to go in the middle of the day.
I'm gonna try to I don't know what day. The thing about it is that there's a theater that I really like to go to that serves alcohol, and I feel
Yeah,
like that might be appropriate for FNAF, like,
that's
uh
fair. Well, and if you can go Thursday night, it'll be a school night. It's in the middle of the
yeah.
week. So you're probably a lot less likely. But Friday night, when I would be able to go, I don't think so.
And that's the other thing too is because it's, like, it's not in my town, it's one town over, so it's not like a horrible drive, but it
Mhm.
is a drive, like, so
Yeah.
going for, like, one of the early shows is gonna be kind of annoying,
Hmm.
but I'm hoping to get out there opening weekend for it,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Well, I
that's
know we asked that we normally talk about this. It's probably not necessary for this one because it's not a FNAF game, but this stands on its own. Even if FNAF never existed, you don't
yeah.
need it. This stands on
Oh,
its own.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What do you rate this?
Oh boy, like 5 stars. This is one of those I feel like my co-hosts are gonna get a hold of this and I'm gonna be harassed about this for a while. It's easily a 9 plus out of
Yeah.
10. Like
Yeah.
it's easy to be like there are a couple things from it where it's not the most profound movie in the world
Sure.
maybe or like but it has to at the very least be like a 9.5 because
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it. Like the argument works both ways. Like it doesn't fail at
No.
anything that it's trying to do and so few movies nail the vibe that they're going for. Like this one
Especially in
does.
this genre.
And and like you said, horror comedies, they're such a tough balance,
They
and
are.
this one just
This is
gets
perfect.
it. What
Yeah.
about you? Where do you
Yeah. I
like
mean, I would say, yeah. I mean, I would probably give it. I don't think I have a single complaint about it. I would probably give it like a 10, just because, like, I don't. I mean, I generally
Yeah.
like it's something I can rewatch a million times and never lose enjoyment of. It was wildly entertaining. I love. This is one that I love to watch with people who have never seen it before. Like, it's just so much fun. And sometimes, I'm not a big fan of fun horror, but like, I think this came when I saw this. This came at a time where I really needed fun horror. And it
Yeah.
was one that like I always go back to when I'm like, I don't know what to watch. And I'm like just hanging out by myself. Like, this is what I'm probably going to go to. Like this and maybe one other movie, but like this is such an easy revisit, such an easy,
Yeah.
fun thing to talk about and get excited about. And I think it's a perfect movie. I don't think there's
It's
anything wrong with
great.
it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool.
Absolutely fantastic. This is my not might, this is my favorite movie that we've talked about on this show. So,
Yeah.
it probably will always be it's hard to imagine
Well,
an adaptation that I like more than Willy's Wonderland.
yeah, I don't think that's gonna change, probably not. I mean, I think even if we both agree and like the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, I am not and I do not think that we are going to like it more than this. I just don't think that's a thing.
I would love to be pleasantly surprised, but I don't it's hard to imagine liking it more than this.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm floating in between of like, I don't think I'm gonna hate it. I'm probably gonna have a lot of fun with it. It's probably gonna be really fun. It's got some people in it that I'm excited to see. I think, I love, and this. I think I'm going into this one completely blind. I have not
Yeah.
seen pictures. I have not seen the trailer. I have seen nothing, and I've only got a few more weeks to keep that shit up. So I'm doing real good. And so when we go see Saw on Friday, I'm like 98% sure this is going to be one of the trailers. So I'm going to, if it is, I should know pretty quickly. I'll be able to get up and leave for a minute because we're sitting on the end near an aisle. So and I already told my best friend, I was like, if I just get up and walk out, like nothing's wrong, but I can't watch the trailer for this. I am determined to go in with zero expectations other than I want to enjoy a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. So I don't think it's gonna beat this though.
I have such a tough time with trailers. Everyone
Mhm.
just expects if I'm at a movie with them that during one of the trailers, I will just get up and leave. Like, everyone is so accustomed to going to the movies with me now that it's just like, I
Yeah.
might vanish
Yeah.
unpredictably, like, and I
Yeah.
remember the one that I couldn't do that with, I think it was Infinity Pool I was at.
Mhm.
I'm, like, in the theater for Infinity Pool, and I wasn't feeling real well,
Mhm.
like, when I went to see it. I was too far away from the exit and, like, moving too slow and didn't realize, like, what trailer was playing. I saw the Scream 6 trailer, like, right before I'm making it to the theater to see Scream 6, and I remember just, like, the heart sinking, like, "Oh, no." Like, as
Aw.
I'm watching the trailer, it's like, I don't like this."
Oh, yeah, see, and I
It's like,
never I
"Oh."
never do that. It's not something I genuinely unless it's a film I've just like that's older that I've never heard of, then I'll go in blind to stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
But this is my first true effort of going to see a brand new horror film without any like
It's
nothing
so hard
going in.
to do.
It's mostly hard not just because I'm a horror fan, but because we're so active in the horror community. And of course, when this dropped, the information about everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
It's really difficult,
Yeah.
but that's the plan is to get up and walk out of Saw if I have to just to avoid it. I'm so close, dude. Like this is the last movie I'm going to see in theaters before I go see FNAF. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I just got to get through Saw. Like
Just
that's
throw
it.
one more.
I just gotta get through one more. And then, because what was it we went and saw that had like no horror trailers? The Red Door. We went and saw Insidious, The Red Door,
Oh,
and there was
yeah.
like no horror trailers. And at one point, like my partner looked over at me and was like, "Are we in the right movie? There's been like no scary trailers." And I was like, "I don't know. We were late. Maybe we missed them. I don't know." But like there were none, So anyway, but yeah, I digress. So yeah, so we'll be back to talk FNAF
And
soon.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be
Me
a
too.
fun talk, I think.
Either way, yeah, either way.
Either way. Yeah,
For
there's
sure. Totally agree. But yeah,
so
if you have not seen Willy's, by this
do
point,
it.
we've ruined everything, but you should still go watch it. It was streaming on Hulu. I don't know if it still is.
I think it still is. I
Yeah.
think.
Highly recommend from the professionals at video game adaptations
Of
and Willy's fans.
course.
I can't find my hair's in the way. I was trying to pull the other one. Okay. Yes, I think that's about it for this episode of Video Game
Yeah.
Adaptations. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good weekend. Go watch Willy's. Go see the Five Nights at Freddy's movie and be ready to come back in November to talk about whether we loved it, hated it, or indifferent. Yeah. See you guys then.
Bye.